Hi, Sassy Stuff. I'm Emma, and I'm here with Blythe. We're excited to talk to you about week 3 of college football, talk about Blythe's exciting time at college game day, and also introduce you to a new segment called Fantasy U. Let's get started. Okay, Blythe, so you did something really cool this Saturday.
I
Tell me.
did. I got to job shadow ESPN PR on the set of College Game Day, and it was absolutely amazing. It has been a dream come true, truly. I have always admired the show, loved the show. I'm the girl at 9 a.m. sitting on her couch watching it from 9 to 12 until they do the pick. So getting to see it up close in person was just so awesome. I got to meet all of the hosts, see behind the scenes of what it's like and the chaos behind the scenes that the viewer obviously doesn't get to see watching the show. But I absolutely loved it. I got there at about 6:30. It was
Wow.
pouring down rain. It was the best game day atmosphere that I've actually been to in a really long time. Game day has not been to South Carolina in 10 years. So you could feel the energy of the crowd even that early at 6 a.m. The students got there at 3 a.m. to get in
Oh my
line.
gosh.
There were people everywhere. It just gave you that juiced up feeling from the beginning of the day. And I know we're going to get into talking about the South Carolina LSU game. And gosh, I know how these South Carolina fans feel. Oh my gosh. I was sitting in the stands just even from the beginning. It was such a exhilarating game from the beginning. They had a sellout crowd. Actually, when the game started at 12, all the rain stopped and the sun actually came out. And it felt good. It felt honestly like a true fall day, 70 degrees. And, I really just can't believe South Carolina gave up those 17 points. I mean, I truly thought they bounced back from the week beforehand, even though they did have that win at Kentucky. Obviously, coming to play a team like LSU and be at home, the crowd factor, obviously, great atmosphere that they put on. But, at the end of the day, they just didn't get it done. And, this weekend at South Carolina, their AD stepped down. So they are going to be looking for a new athletic director there. And I think the one thing for South Carolina that's going to be interesting with the new person coming and taking the spot is what is going to get them from just being good to being great. I think they have a great platform right now, but just what is going to get them over that hump? They have a great coach who's young, who the players seem to buy into a lot. He is a great recruiter. People love this place for some reason. So what is the hump to get them over to be that great team and be that great consistent program? So, I saw a lot of bright spots this weekend from their team. I hate their quarterback got hurt. I think he's obviously a really pivotal part of this team this year. You could tell the whole momentum of the entire team went down in the second half and, giving up all those points. He pretty much sat out the whole second half of the game. Not sure, honestly, what his injury is. I know it was something with his ankle. I think he rolled his ankle or something like that. So I'm not sure if he'll be back next weekend. But really looking forward to see what they do moving forward. Obviously losing a very close game like that right at the last second. Your team will either bounce back from that or they'll be defeated. So I'm excited to kind of see what they do. Obviously, there's, a lot of football left to be played this season. So, just looking forward to see how they bounce back from that.
No, absolutely. I thought this. I was watching this game, and immediately you think South Carolina is going to run away with it. It was 17-0 going into the second quarter, and it seemed like a done deal. But overall, the question of this game was who can finish. And really, at the end of the day, it came down to LSU could. But here, the Gamecocks have a lot to be proud of. I mean, Lenore Sellers is a dynamite player for them. He's really found his own in just 3 short weeks, and I really do hope he comes back and plays hard for this team. I think that they are just going to continue to grow and continue to get better. And their defense is really a shining point of this team, which is why I was so sad that those pick six came back for just stupid mistakes.
They had, I think, over 13 penalties, maybe 13, maybe more. I can't remember the exact number, but you obviously can't win football games like that. And that's one thing that Coach Beamer said in his post game was, obviously you can't win a ball game with 13 penalties. Two penalties I will say were kind of dicey. If you're a South Carolina fan, drop it in the comments. I would love to know how you're feeling. I think the first big penalty towards the end of the game was the right call, but I think the second one that was a little controversial. I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't know if that was the right call or not. I'm not out there making that call, but if I were a South Carolina fan, I really don't know how I'd feel right now. But all that to say, you can't base it just on that. You still gave up 17 points. You still didn't finish. That's why you work hard. That's why you're the lifting weights, the blood, sweat, tears. Like, it's all about the fourth quarter. Everybody's got all these fourth quarter hype videos. Finish. What are we going to do to finish? This is how championships are made. And that honestly is what separates the great and just the good teams, is how do you get over that hump? And I think everybody comes to that point sometimes, figuring out what that is. But, they've got to figure that out. There's obviously a lot of football left. They're always kind of the team that, they'll beat somebody that they're not supposed to beat. And then they'll have a loss that is just like, what, to a crazy team. So for me, it's just, they have to be consistent. They have to bounce back from this. And, they have a tough schedule going down the road too. So they're going to have to figure that out as a team going forward, or, they could easily be defeated. And, I think the looks of it right now, if they had won that game, I definitely see them as, a 7-win team possibly. But with, Sellers getting hurt and not really knowing how they'll bounce back and the mentality they have, who knows what they'll do. But excited to see it.
No, absolutely. And I mean, overall, this game was just messy, and more so on that LSU side. I mean, South Carolina really handed LSU this win, and they helped LSU get this win. So looking at LSU, they have a great offense. It wasn't that great this game, but overall, they have a really strong offense. But their defense, it's still in question. It has been the last few years, and that's been their downfall. So, I mean, they have a lot of hard games coming up, so they really got to figure this out now so that this doesn't happen to them again moving forward.
Exactly. South Carolina has always been more of a defensive program anyways. Coach Spurrier, just different coaches in the past, they've always been very defensive minded. So they're really just missing that offensive piece. And, I think with Sellers, I think that is their guy. I do. I think he's really going to take them to some different heights that this team and this program's never really seen before. He is a very, very special player when he's on that field. So, moving forward, hopefully he'll bounce back from that.
I also think he's such a fun kid. I mean, he was wearing the goggles to see for the last few weeks. And then this week he told his coach, he's like, I want to try contacts. And he was like, you don't have to. And he's like, no, I want to try it. And then he said somewhere, he was like, no, it looks brighter. So I thought that was great. I think he's a great kid.
Game day signs too of like the goggles that he wore. Marketing is great for branding. I also think it's great for kids who look up to him as a role model.
Absolutely.
Lenore Sellers wearing glasses, I want to wear glasses. And
exactly.
I love that. And maybe he'll put them on the next game. And, games he's worn them, they've won. So maybe he needs to throw the goggles back on.
Exactly. Well, South Carolina LSU was definitely a fun game, but we did have another SEC matchup at 3:30, which was the Texas A&M game against Florida. Now, both of these teams suffered losses in their season opener. Texas A&M at home to Notre Dame. That loss looks a little worse now after the Irish lost to Northern Illinois, and Florida, who lost to Miami with the dynamic Cam Ward as QB. But then in week 2, they both pulled off very impressive wins. Now, Texas A&M, minutes before the opening kick, Connor Wagman, their quarterback, was ruled out for the game. He did sprain his AC joint and his throwing arm. So they brought in their second string QB, Marcel Reed, and he actually performed incredible. He completed 11 of his 17 passes for 178 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. He was a big star for them. He really came out and took over this game against Florida. So he was absolutely amazing. Also, Texas A&M's defense, on average, allowed 183 rushing yards per game, but the Aggies this week held Florida back to just 52 yards. So that's what really helps the Aggies win, was their defense really stepping up for them too. And with Florida, their first half was very reminiscent of that opening week loss to Miami. They just never got in a rhythm. And when they did, late in the second half, it was just really too late. And throughout the evening, I mean, Reed was able to break through the pocket. Most of their notable issues come with their inability to set the edge, contain that quarterback. So they kept like flipping who was QB as well. So with both of these teams, they kind of have QB questions because we don't really know who's going to be the QB for Florida, because they went back and forth between Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. And so we never really got a feel for what this Florida offense is truly going to be yet. And on top of that, with the Aggies, with Connor Weidman's injury, if he comes back next week, if he's good to play next week, what are they going to do? Because Marcel Reed performed brilliantly this past weekend. So they both have QB questions, and they really got to figure it out because their seasons are about to get much tougher.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a Florida fan, I mean, I think it's fair to say, you know, Coach Napier, is he y'all's guy? I mean, how do these people feel? I mean, is this a coach that's going to move forward with this team, or are they going to be making a coaching change? You know, on Florida, just the history of the Florida program, best is the standard for them. So,
It's another disappointing loss, and it never seems to be getting better. So there is that question. Will it be at the end of this season? Who's to say? It really depends on if they can improve.
Yep, I agree.
Well, the last game we're covering this week is Georgia versus Kentucky. I didn't think we would have much to say about this game, but it turns out that we do. Kentucky was absolutely dynamic on defense against Georgia. Now, in the past, Georgia has an 8-0 record versus Kentucky. Georgia also averages a margin of 18 points in those games over Kentucky to take that win. But Kentucky actually held out in that game. They still had a chance to win going into that last drive in the game. How do you feel about this game, Blythe?
Yeah, well, actually, it's kind of funny because now looking back at the two games, the South Carolina game as well as the Kentucky game, both games were obviously hilarious, nail-biting games that no one expected. The game day staff even told me that they did not have the South Carolina LSU game circled on their end at all. But now it's kind of funny looking back to see, well, dang, you know, maybe they should have gone to the Kentucky game and the Georgia game. Whatever, just enough to say. It's still, you know, I actually saw the tail end of this game and obviously very shocked as, you know, last week they absolutely laid an egg against South Carolina, and then for them to bounce back against Georgia is just crazy. But teams do that, obviously. This is football. This is the SEC. This happens every week. This is, you know,
exactly.
This is crazy. So, I mean, for me, when I see that, I honestly don't think Georgia should be the number one team. I don't think they've done anything that has proven yet that they are the number one and everybody else trickles down. I don't think that they're at that point yet. They haven't proven that to me yet.
No, I feel the exact same way. I was watching this game with a group of friends, and watching this, I was like, this is not a good look for Georgia, who is supposed to be that top tier, that number one team in the country that everybody says from the beginning of the season, they are the number one team in the country. But looking back at week one, they struggled in that first half against Clemson. And then now you look here against Kentucky. I mean, they were able to be held. They were able to be contained.
Yeah,
and number one team doesn't allow that.
No,
so it's very, very interesting to see. I did say to my group of friends, I was like, Texas should definitely go 1. Georgia should take a slight hit, go 2, and then the rest should stay about the same. But I'm 100% in line with the AP poll this week. So I'm kind of glad for the change. I also really want to highlight Kentucky's defense against this number one Georgia team, now number two Georgia team in the country. The group totaled 28 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, 3 pass breakups. I mean, their defense was dynamite. So I think they have a lot to be proud of. They have a big season ahead of them, and I think they could really pull something special out.
Yeah, I think so too. I think from Georgia, we just need to see some more. I mean, they're not playing like the number one team, and obviously each team in the SEC every single week is vicious. This is a very vicious conference, vicious teams, vicious schedule every single week. Obviously that was a road test for them. Being at Kentucky, you saw how it shook them a little bit. Well, I guess we'll just see how they make the adjustments, honestly. I mean, that's all any team can do week in and week out is see how they adjust, and, excited to see.
Absolutely. And I mean, Kirby's a pro. Kirby's been there before, and he can do it again. They do have that bye week, and then they go to Tuscaloosa, and we'll break this game down more next week. But I mean, Bama just beat Wisconsin 42-10 on Saturday, and while they're not this perfect product yet, Jalen Milroe is consistently scoring on his feet. Ryan Williams, he's living up to the hype, and when they have a healthy O-line, like we saw at that game in Wisconsin, it gives Milroe that time he needs to make those big plays. And as we saw against South Florida, they're able to stay calm even when it's uncomfortable. So I think this game on the 28th, with both teams getting that bye, resting up, I think this game is going to be really, really amazing.
It's going to be great. And at the end of the day, it's still Bama and it's still Georgia.
Absolutely. The rivalry still lives.
Does it all. And the history of both programs, it is still Georgia and it's still Alabama. So you gotta come 100 for sure. You gotta be ready, you gotta be rested, you gotta be healthy, you gotta be mentally tough. And that's what that game's gonna take, and that's gonna be a good one that we're gonna get to watch.
Absolutely. And we definitely haven't seen what the extent of both these teams can do yet. So I think we're gonna see a little bit more of that in 2 weeks. Okay, now I would just want to hit on Texas a little bit. I, again, didn't think we would have to talk about this, but unfortunately, Texas did lose their starting quarterback, Quinn Ewers. He suffered a strained abdomen in the second quarter, but looking at the game, you would never have known that because Arch Manning stepped up in a big way for the Longhorns, and they certainly did not miss a beat. Manning threw 4 touchdown passes and ran for a 67-yard score. I mean, they led the Texas team to a 56-7 blowout victory over UTSA. I mean, it's really sad to me because Ewers has never completed a full year of football being healthy. He had those shoulder injuries the past 2 years, and now he has this new thing with his abdomen. It makes me sad for the kid because he was on his way to getting that Heisman, and now we have to see how many weeks he's actually going to be out and see if he can get back on that train to win that award.
That's right. I know they had put something out today that he'd be questionable maybe for the next 1 to 2 weeks. So hopefully it's just 1 to 2 weeks and not that long, so he doesn't have to miss the rest of the season. And, if he is this dynamic player that we've seen, this star athlete, freak-given athlete, he's still got a lot of football left to play.
Absolutely.
I don't think the Heisman voters will not take that into account if he bounces back from an injury. That's what great players do, and I have faith that that's probably what he'll do. But also, if you're Texas, I mean, look at your backup. Your future is bright. Your future is bright, and I think it's comforting to know that when your number one goes down, your number 2 is just as good, if not, might be better.
Absolutely, never hurts to have a Manning on the roster. All right, now we have a new segment for you guys called Fantasy U. We are both big lovers of fantasy football for the NFL, so we thought we would bring it on over to college as well. So each week, Blythe and I are going to go through our teams. We're going to see how they played out this week, and then we might add new players, drop players, a little friendly competition between us. So to start off, we're going to do our QBs. I have Jackson Dart of Ole Miss. I mean, Lane Kiffin is not letting his foot off the gas. He is scoring so much every game. In 3 games, Dart has already obtained 1,172 yards. And Ole Miss plays Georgia Southern next week, so I think he's going to do well for me.
I have chosen Cam Ward from Miami. Super exciting player to watch, on fire this year. Really enjoyed watching him, and he had a great season last year, and looking forward to see what he does the rest of the year.
All right. And now, who do you have for your wide receiver?
I am gonna go with Missouri's Luther Burden. He had 86 receptions last year, 9 touchdowns. I'm gonna rock with the other Tigers.
There you go. For my wide receiver, I'm taking Trey Harris of Ole Miss. I mean, Jackson Dart's throwing them and he's catching them. Ole Miss plays Georgia Southern next week, like I said, so I think this is going to get me lots of points here.
Yeah.
Next up, my running back is Ashton Jentney of Boise State. Last year, he totaled 1,347 yards and 14 touchdowns. And so far this year, he's had 267 yards and 6 touchdowns. So he's playing Portland State this week. So he should get me good yardage. What about you?
For my running back, I'm going to take Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma State. So far, he has 1 receiving touchdown and ran for 126 yards in week 1. So I'm going to take Mr. Gordon.
All righty. Now, who do you have for tight end?
I have got Ole Miss's Caden. He transferred to Ole Miss from Memphis, and he's got a lot to prove this season. And, obviously that offense at Ole Miss is rolling, and I really don't think they're going to stop with Coach Kiffin leading their guys. So I'm going to rock with Ole Miss.
We're both on that Ole Miss strategy.
Like,
oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Now, I got Colston Loveland of Michigan. I mean, he helped the Wolverines win a natty last year. They're going to need to lean on him. They're playing USC this week, so I'm excited to see what he does.
What about your defense?
I got Kentucky's defense. They really shined against Georgia, so I'm excited to see what they do playing against Ohio this week. What about you?
I'm taking Ole Miss again. Obviously, playing great on defense week in and week out, and they're only going to get better. And I think as they go on with different games, we'll really get to see just how great they are. So I'm going to take them.
All righty. And last but not least, we have our kickers. My kicker is going to be Blake Craig of Missouri. Week 1 and week 3, he made all of his field goals. I'm hoping he does the same when he plays against Vandy. What about you?
So I'm going to take Texas's Burt Auburn. He averages 8 points for Texas in the last 3 games, and they play LA Monroe this week.
All right. Well, I'm excited to see how this all plays out for us, see who wins this week. Next week, we might change up a couple of our players, but we're excited for this new segment, and it's a little bit of a friendly competition.
It's a friendly competition. I play this currently with my friends in the NFL, and it's so much fun. I truly have always enjoyed college football more than the NFL, but this has made me definitely pay a lot more close attention to these NFL games. And, living in South Carolina, we don't have really an NFL team other than the Panthers in North Carolina. That's about an hour and a half from my house. So I didn't grow up loving NFL like college football. So this is a fun way for me to get in that NFL space as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really love fantasy football. I'm actually pulling mine up right now. I definitely didn't do great today.
Yeah.
It's very bad. Let me see if I can get that up there.
Oh my gosh.
I had 145 points, and now I'm sitting at 49 with just Barkley left to play tomorrow. So this is definitely not my week, but there's always next week.
Let's see what mine is. Let's see here. Yep, I only have 78 currently.
All right. Well, we were big failures there, but one of us has to win next week between us. So
I still have 2 guys left to play, but I had a couple bright spots today with some of my guys. Zay Flowers played great. He was one of my top ones. Got me some points today. So
I love it. Well, we're taking our love for NFL fantasy football to college, so we're excited to see how it plays out.
We're excited to see how it plays out. We are so excited to see you guys next week. I actually will be taking a week off, so keep me in your thoughts. I will be having these tonsils taken out, so I will not be able to talk. But I will have a whiteboard, and we're going to get down to the X's and O's, college football, right here, SEC show. We won't be going anywhere. I'll just have a whiteboard. It's okay, because we are here to bring you all SEC coverage. So I'm excited to see you guys next week. We're also going to still be doing our live segment, so look out for that. Send in your questions, and we're excited to be here and see you guys.